name's Forrest. I run the YouTube channel Retro or Die. Basically a channel dedicated to game reviews on the video games of the past from my childhood. Not necessarily like Angry Video Game Nerd where I'm ranting and raving about games with skits, more just straight up just reviews and letting the game shine through of what I loved growing up as a kid. Why did I start recollecting video games from when I was a child? Well, the big part is when I was a kid, you know, most kids can relate to this. Your parents didn't have that much money to go buy you every video game you always wanted, and when we got magazines like Nintendo Power that had all the upcoming games coming out and listing them all in front of your face, and you're like, oh god, I want this so bad. You know, unless your parents were super rich, you know, you were gonna get, if you're lucky, 2 to 3 games a year. Now, as an adult now, I find myself drawn towards these games because there were so many I can remember that I've always wanted to play. And now, as an adult, I have the funds, I have the time, I can go out and buy these games and get them at any time I want to. And now with the days of the internet and having games literally at your fingertips of buying anything that you could have ever wanted, including some of the rarest of the rare games, it just makes for a great, fun, and enjoyable hobby. It's not a cheap hobby, but it's definitely one of the best hobbies I've ever had. Now, with any hobby and with any collector of anything, I don't care if it's stamps, I don't care if it's coins, I don't care if it's old comic books, I don't care if it's toys. When it comes to collecting things, you'll run across some of the worst people you can ever find on the planet. And those are the scumbag resellers that take advantage of anybody and everything to make a quick buck, whether it's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do, or anything. You will find these people in every corner of the market. Now, with retro video games, it really wasn't a giant concern 10 years ago. You know, you weren't going to have to worry about Contra being, you know, a $70 game loose 10 years ago. But now, you'll see games as common as Mario 3 going for $40 without a box or manual. It's just insane how these games have exploded. And for some reason, especially within the last 3 years, it seems like these games, thanks, of course, just as well as the internet, like I said before, the internet made games more readily available for you to buy, but it also gave the power in the average person and average consumer to be able to read stories about how some games are worth thousands and thousands of dollars, like Nintendo World Championship or stadium events. And when the reseller market reads these sort of stories, they say, oh, I've got some old Nintendo games laying around in my storage unit. I'm going to take these to the flea market and sell them higher than they even are on eBay, because obviously I'm sitting on a pile of gold here when really I'm sitting on nothing but a bunch of crap. You know, I've got 10 Super Scopes and 10 copies of Mario Duck Hunt, and they're going to be going for $50 a piece. No, that's not how these things work. And what also makes things even more worse for the everyday collector, when you're going out and buying video games, people that decide it's a great idea to take a permanent marker and write the prices on the cart because they have literally no idea what it means for anybody to want to have these games in their collection. Look at this. We don't want games with writing on them. We want clean copies of these. We want clean copies. We don't want games that have someone's name, address, the price, their size of their mom's underwear on the cart. That doesn't make for us what we want. And I have literally had these discussions with people. I've gone into Goodwills, I've gone into Salvation Armies, and these people have written in permanent marker on these carts. You bring it up expecting, hey, you guys kind of depreciated the value of this cart here, and they just look at me like, fuck you, we don't care. We're gonna keep the price there, and just because you don't like it means you're probably the one that's weird. And I have gotten those looks before. You get in these altercations with people at the flea market, and everyone wants to look at you like you're crazy, like you're the one trying to screw over the seller who knows little to nothing about video games, selling a Mario 2 for $80, and they're trying to act like it's the average price when really you could go up on any website. I've been willing to do this for people before. Show them, look, this is what the game is even going for on eBay, and you're selling it like $50 higher than that, and people just don't care. And this is where the rift comes from the new collector or the person that doesn't really care because they want to blow all their expendable income, which is fine. But this comes from the new collector to the person that's been collecting for years, how things can get fucked up, because new people will not know. Even though we're living in the day of the internet, we live in this day and age now where everything's readily available on your phone. These information about these games is not hard to find. Prices are not hard to find. But people nowadays are so impatient and they want everything now, and they're not willing to wait. They don't even want to do simple research on a phone that's sitting in their pocket. They pull out the $70 or $80 to pay for the most common of common video games that you can get your hands on, and that just drives the reseller market of hiking up prices exponentially higher than they are even online. In the last few years, I've noticed that there's been this battle between the people that like to buy video games, you know, the collectors of video games, and the people reselling video games at stores and even flea markets. It's become this clash where the reseller thinks that they're sitting on a pile of gold. They've got 5 copies of Super Mario Dunk Hunt, and they think it's all worth $40 to $50 to $60, even $70 loose, without even a box, a manual, or anything. I've seen this as common. I've seen this even commonly at record stores. Nintendo 64 games with the labels ripped off. Sports games, mind you. Sports games. We're talking about Madden's football sports games. Labels ripped off, charged $30 per cart. You take it up to the counter and no one's willing to work with you. Like, you are the bad person here. You're the one trying to screw the company over because this rare Madden game is going to be worth $100 one day. No, that's not how things work. And unfortunately, no one is willing to look at this for what it is. Sure, is it capitalism to go out and find a game, a rare game, and mark it up as at list value? Sure, I'll give you that. It's fine to do the research and make sure that you find a game and you're gonna get the money it's worth for it. But when you take a game and you just blanketly price everything all out the same way, all you're doing is screwing out everybody, including yourself, of making this hobby enjoyable. I don't know how you can be happy and be comfortable with yourself as a reseller, knowing that you charged this person $70 for a Mario Duck Hunt, and you just watch them walk away and you can sleep with yourself at night. But again, a lot of people just don't give a crap. They only care about the money. So these video games for me mean a lot more than just a hobby. These games meant a lot to me in my childhood. You know, my parents went through a very rocky divorce, and I was always put in my grandma's house to be watched while all that stuff was going on. And all I would do was sit in front of my grandma's turn-dial TV and play my Nintendo. I'd play Godzilla and sit there for hours and just have fun. Friday the 13th, even though I had the manual I could barely read, I was sitting there having fun with a game. These games mean more to me than most people probably can imagine that have no idea, you know, what it's like to go through a hard patch in life as a kid and be given something that gives you that great escape. It gives you the only escape. And that's why no one, you know, I meet people nowadays and they don't understand when I say I can play video games for hours, and they look at me like it's a weird thing, like it's some sort of childish, weird hobby that I shouldn't be doing. It's like they try to cast it aside. Some people look at these games that are sitting behind me when they come into my office, and they kind of look at me like dumbfounded and confused. Why would I waste the money? Why would I waste the time? It's because these games mean more to me, not just for nostalgic reasons, but on a personal level of reminding me of how no matter how bad things got as a kid, I always had these video games here for me. These were the characters that were here for me. These were the stories that were here for me. I mean, books could not offer me what these games could offer me as a child. And that's why today these games mean so much to me now. Some people collect cars, some people collect stamps, and some people collect coins. The big difference is those things all seem to be acceptable in society. When it comes to video games, there's still, even though people seem to forget that video games is the highest and most grossing source of entertainment in America today, people seem to still have this stigmatism towards video games that is a child thing to do. It is a weird thing to do. If you're a grown man over the age of 25, 30, 35, 40, you have to have something wrong with you. When in reality, no, those people are just going to be the kind that never understood. I feel sorry for those people that think collecting video games and playing video games nowadays is such a weird kid thing to do because those people never had the experiences. And that's sad to me as a child or as a young adult to get involved in some of the most greatest stories ever told, more than books could offer you. Books are great. Don't get me wrong about books. Books are great. Comic books are great. But video games offer you the actual interactive experience with the story, you being able to tailor your own experiences and tie your memories and your childhood thoughts and feelings into these games. It means a lot more to me and the people within the community around me than a lot of other people can even comprehend. A lot of things don't even get taken into consideration when people go to resell video games at a flea market, because they're not paying for a store overhead, they're not paying for employees, they're not paying for light bills. All they're really doing there is they're renting the space that they chose to rent, which really isn't that expensive when you look at it in the retrospect of everything. But what they're doing is they're hiking up these games higher than you'll ever see on eBay, higher than you'll ever see on Amazon, to screw people over. Now, I'm not saying everyone is out to do that, and I'm not saying that there's resellers that aren't willing to work with you, and some are the greatest people you'll ever meet. But for the majority that I've run across in this area, everyone is out to screw everybody. Everyone thinks that they're sitting on a pile of gold when really they're sitting on a pile of shit. Super Mario Duck Hunt may be a very fun game and very nostalgic for a lot, but this game is not worth $80. I'm sorry, it's not. And if you do think that, and you're one of these reseller scumbags that just like, I don't care, I'm going to list it that high and hopefully some sucker's going to come and buy it, then screw you. There's so many ways now how people can get screwed over when it comes to these old video games. Because now, not only do we have to worry about resellers marking up prices exponentially higher than you would even buy a game online, you have to worry about the even worse people, a little bit lower than reseller scumbags, which is the pirate people, the people that make pirated carts, the people that make reproduction carts, pass them off as the real thing and sell people and screw people over because they don't market as the real deal. You see this all the time on eBay, you see this a lot of the time online, is people trying to literally sell carts that are fake, pirated carts, and charge hundreds of dollars for them and act like they're the real thing. We see this all the time with certain games such as Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. Not only do we have to worry about the scumbag resellers, pirated carts floating around all over the internet, now we also have to worry about, now in the day and the age of the internet, everyone thinks they have gold, like I said. We have major gaming corporations, selling stores like GameStop, who introduced the retro, market program that they have, where they're buying up old games and they're taking them back to this, giant factory where they're cleaning them and making them all perfect again and reselling them to you at lower prices than you would ever find online, just to come to find out that they're not doing even the bare bone minimum quality checks on these games and making sure that they're not even fake, because we've had tons of stories come out where these games, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Contra, everything like that, everything you could think of coming out, and it's all fake games. That means GameStop doesn't even do the checks that they promised people before they sell these games, and people are getting fucked over, and everyone just shrugs their shoulders and goes, well, I don't know how that happened. And it just goes to show that no matter how good of an idea could be, if there's greed involved and not thinking about the consumer, then the idea is just going to fall and crash like a plane. In the end, these games are not just some sort of weird hobby that I have where, it's a guy that could never grow up from being a kid. No, I can tell you, I've got my own grown-up jobs and my grown-up life that I'm doing. This is just the kind of stuff that I love. It drives me. Video games as a kid were mine. It's what made me have that escape from everything that was bad. I tied my childhood to this. And now, as an adult, I have the ability to go out and find more games that I can enjoy now and share them with my kids down the line and watch them connect their memories to it, thus progressing the circle of life when it comes to these games. These games I don't want to be forgotten. Most of the time, any kid that I know now that's younger than the age of 10 has no idea what an NES is, what a Super Nintendo is, has no idea what the Nintendo 64 was. A week ago, I was at my kid's school picking her up, and I was wearing a shirt that had Link from The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on it. And a little kid, had to be less than 7 years old, ran up to me super excited and started screaming, "Oh, a Minecraft shirt, a Minecraft shirt!" And the other parents are looking around and they're looking at me kind of weirded out. And I'm dumbfounded because this little kid, not only does this little kid not know what Legend of Zelda Link to the Past is, or Super Nintendo or anything, but the parents are obviously the same kind of people that I said give you that weird look because you're an older man who likes video games. And it just made me feel incredibly old. My kid, on the other hand, is not going to be like that. My kid is going to know what real good video games are, not these AAA pieces of crap that come out that are broken upon release, are charged up the ass for downloadable content. They're going to know what real video games are. They're going to know what real challenges are. Unlike the games today, like you have Titanfall 2, where you die in the game, and there's literally no punishment for dying in the game. It drops you right back off where you died. Where you're playing Ninja Gaiden or Ghouls and Ghosts, and you die, and that's it. Game over. You start over from the beginning, and that's it. My kid is going to know that. My kid's going to be able to appreciate a real challenge. And that's just how you progress the circle of life of these games. That's how they're not going to be forgotten. These games shouldn't be forgotten. They are a key piece to not only American pop culture history, but they're a key piece to us as kids that grew up in that time era where games were meant to challenge you. Games were meant to be hard. Games were meant to make you feel like you went and earned your place to brag about beating them. People ask me why I like these video games. I stop them and say, I love these video games.